Greetings, everyone. Ken McAuliffe, Stereophile contributing editor here with Mike Weiss of Bellisound, based in Half Moon Bay in California. How you doing, Mike?
Doing well. How are you, Ken?
I am doing well. Since 2018, Mike and Bellisound have been producing amplifiers, preamps, ACs, and power conditioners. And Mike is going to tell us about a new product. What's the name of that product, Mike?
We call this one Kalalau. It's a Hawaiian name. It means trail to paradise.
Oh, wow.
And anybody who is familiar with the Kauai island, Kauai, the Nepali coast contains a trail called Kalalau, trail to paradise.
Wow. This is a preamplifier?
It is.
Your new preamp? Do you name your other gear so colorfully?
Well, actually, yes. Our monoblocks
That's
are
interesting.
Hanalei. The Hanalei area, the Hanalei Bay is gorgeous. And so is what the Hanalei does. So we thought good fit there. This one we see right here, this is the Kahili stereo amplifier, again named after a bay, a beach in Kauai, and then our Hana power conditioner. So we took the theme all the way through the product line.
Why this Hawaiian theme?
Well, my son lives in Kauai, and he's the creative genius behind the look of the equipment. So we thought, hey, he had the look concept, let's give him the naming concept too, and it forms a nice cohesive sort of mental picture of a very exquisitely beautiful place, and that's where we would like to take our listeners.
Smart marketing.
Yeah.
You didn't just call it the Z12135. And how do you pronounce the name again for the preamp?
Kalalau.
Kalalau. And how much does the Kalalau list for?
That's 20,000.
Okay, so tell me, well, we sort of know what it does, but what does it do and what makes it special, Mike?
Well, it is a preamp, so it has attenuation, 1 dB steps, and 5 inputs. It can handle home theater bypass, tape in, all of those things. All of the IOs are RCA and XLR, so there's no constriction on what format you'd like to use. I think it has 10 dB of gain in RCA connection and fully balanced 16 dB. I think that pretty much is what a preamp is, but as far as what makes it special, there's really several things that have gone into this design to make it special. We decided right up front to do a complementary JFET design. So there's nothing in the circuit but JFETs all the way through the signal path. And the reason that choice was made is we're after two things with a preamp. We want very, very low distortion and very low noise. And we've achieved that with that design. There's no capacitors in the signal path. So capacitors, no matter what they are, they can do wonders in a piece of equipment, but every capacitor has a voice, it has a signature. And sometimes that's used very selectively and creatively for purposes. But in the case of the preamp has the potential to be absolutely neutral already. And so we made the design without signal path capacitors. So what you're getting is exactly what comes in, that's what comes out.
So what's the, I'm no electronic designer or electric designer, but capacitors store power reserves. So what stores, am I right? So what stores the power reserves if not capacitors in your unit?
The same function in the power supplies, we have the capacitors, but we don't have signal coupling capacitors. So we're not going to give a voice to to the signal with a capacitor. We're being very neutral with the signal, but the power supply has high quality film capacitors.
Interesting. Continue, sir.
Okay, so now that we're thinking about power supply, there's 3 layers of power supply filtering and regulation. And one after another, we continue to take more and more noise out. One of those layers is the music rail layer. And some people have heard of the music rail. It's shown up in certain pieces of high-end equipment. We designed it. And it's an active circuit that acts like an active power conditioner for the DC. So we actually have 3 layers of power supply control and filtering. Now the power supply sits in its own Faraday cage. and the amplifier channels sit in their own Faraday cages. So we have great isolation between these functions. This allows us to bring AC into the component and yet not corrupt the signal path at all with leakage into the signal.
Is that unusual, not putting the capacitors in the power supply, if you have a power supply, and not in the unit itself? Is that very common?
It's not, we're not the only ones who have kept capacitors out of the signal path, but they do show up in a great deal of the, great many of the offerings out there. They do show up. And they are an artsy thing that have been used by a lot of companies advantageously to do voicing. But usually you resort to voicing when your circuit inherently has a voice that you don't want. You use capacitors to sort of balance that out. But in this design, we have kept it so absolutely pristine that it's just pure, honest preamplification without any need to do that voicing.
Do you do a similar thing with your power amps with no capacitors in the power? Can you do that? I don't know.
Power amplifiers are another animal.
Right.
And what they need to do is so incredibly demanding to produce power and to do it with low distortion. We have found that we can use the signal path capacitor to a great advantage there, and so we do. We actually use a very expensive capacitor in the signal path of our power amplifiers.
What kind of capacitor?
It's a Dooland.
And what sort of JFETs, what brand and model are you using?
Oh, these are actually the brand slips my mind, and I'm not being coy about that. It's a company in San Jose that makes a beautiful dual JFET on a monolithic chip, and it is the very best that we have been able to find, so we procure all of them from that company. The name slips my mind.
And what are the other quote-unquote high-quality components in your preamp?
Well, we have REL capacitors in the power supply. They're very pure, simple, basic, robust design. So we chose those. Let's see, other components. There are the sort of vaunted Bybee quantum purifiers in the power supply, which we have taken and actually embellished and kind of one-upped on what that was in the historical legacy of that technology. And that is now in the power supply, in the AC side. What other technology? We have the Cosmo step attenuator. They do a beautiful job. But we're using KHOZMO.
Wow.
It's out of Poland.
Out of Poland.
Yes.
Cool. But you must, I know you're saying you stress the idea of a preamplifier, I guess, with no sound of its own, but it must have some sound, and do you aim to voice it in any particular way, or?
Well, no, actually that's the beautiful thing about it. We really didn't need to voice it. So what we do at Bellisound, on all of our signal components, we listen to the signal with very high quality headphones, electrostatic Stax headphones. We listen to the signal before entry into the component, and we also listen after. And this gives us an idea of what is the voice of this component. Now, it's the philosophy of Bellisound that a component in the signal path should not have a voice. We strive to eliminate it. We like to think that the sophisticated audiophile is interested in what was recorded and not some overdub of his own equipment over that signal. This is the purest concept in audiophile, in the art and in the hobby of an audiophile. So we are participating in a very neutral way that way. For an example, the power amplifier should not have a voice, but it should have all the power you could ever ask for. It should be fast, it should be low distortion, low noise, all the things you want, but it shouldn't have a signature that you're forced to live with for the time that you own your power amp. And being that they're heavy, expensive items, that's generally quite a long time.
Why do you think most, because I've reviewed lots of power amps, lots of everything, and why are most companies not able to achieve that and not just have because if you have just a see-through thing, because you'll hear every component in front of it and behind it sound like itself and not like something else.
Yeah.
But why do you think, and not asking you to put down other companies, but why is that a difficult thing to do, to have a component that doesn't have its own voice?
Well, depending on the architecture of the component, the individual parts that make it up speak into that signal. Every component has a voice, and depending on the architecture, in some cases, that's quite well exposed. You make one choice of a capacitor and you're listening to that capacitor. It's not easy to know all of that out and get rid of it. For one thing, it's not easy. There is a second reason. There are companies that, and I have great respect for them, that use their technology and the choice of internal parts to create a sound which they consider to be their sound.
Right.
This is the sound you're going to have when you buy our brand.
Right.
And I have a lot of respect for that. That can be a wonderful thing in and of itself. But what we have decided, and I think there's some merit for this, is that in the process of building up a system over a period of years, when you stack components that are honest and completely without voice, when you stack them together, you are building toward the goal that I think ultimately the audiophile has in mind. And that is, I want to hear the production. I want to hear that symphony. I want to hear it as it was when it was being recorded. I want to be in row 5, center seat. I don't want the signature of anything laying over the top of that. Sometimes you want it because you have a voice here, you have a voice there, and you're saying, this voice can help me cancel out that voice. That's high-end, sophisticated tuning. But at Bellisound, we believe that if we keep the voice out, then we allow people to build systems up slowly over a period of time where the addition of more and more of the Bellisound components does not continue to change the sound of their music. It just allows more of it to come through.
Cool. And what is your background in designing electronics?
I have a bachelor's in physics, a master's in electrical engineering. I have 40 patents to my name over the course of my career as a microwave engineer. And I've done basically the high-end audio has been kind of like a parallel effort on my own over the course of pretty much my whole life.
You're one of these smart guys. I run into these guys all the time, like you and Nick Doshi, and these guys who just have my editor, Jim Austin, people with large brains. I'm a worker bee. Well, thank you so much, Michael. I can't wait to hear your system and your preamp.
Ken, I look forward to that too.